We have found that kind of once you get a team together that's working, it's really not good to mess with that. I didn't view myself as this guru. And then when things get real busy, those folks that are real comfortable sometimes don't want to take off like needing to. Processes have to change. That's kind to say it was gutsy. Probably more stupid than gutsy, but the speed of service has to change. A lot of things have to change. We have to start out with somebody who's just really top-notch character. The grass has to be greener. We don't always do everything that they want us to do.
I wish I could say that I had a rock solid strategy there. If we get to that point where it's more corporate and we're just making money, but we're not really giving back, treating your employees like they're part of something bigger.
Have a really great culture and a really great place to work. We feel like the best people will want to come work for us.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us here for another episode of the Lift Your Shop podcast. Today we have an amazing guest. We have James Church from Oxford Automotive. He has 4 locations in the greater Columbus area. So James, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So James, to start us off, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself a little bit in terms of how you got started in this industry, kind of your career path and story, and how it kind of leads us to today.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, I'm a second generation shop owner. My father, Richard Church, he started the business in 1979, basically on our family farm. And we still have a 6-bay location on that family farm, and my dad and mom still live on the property. We did that for a long time. I worked with my dad out of high school, and just the two of us worked together for about 9 years. Then my dad retired, and I was on my own and just working, just wrenching, doing everything, and started hiring young people to work with me, and we just gradually grew it from there. And then in 2018, we opened our second location, and in 22, our third, and now in 23, our fourth location.
That's super awesome. And congratulations on being able to successfully open so many locations, especially within a short amount of time.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
it gets a little easier as you kind of figure it out. I was told when we opened our second location, they said, you better not plan on just 2 because the second one's the hardest, and you figure it out, and then you go from there. So
yeah. So I guess what got you to have, say, the courage or maybe the timing of realizing, hey, it's time for the second location?
Yeah. So I have a large family, and I had my shop was running well. I had delegated most of the service advising. I wasn't wrenching anymore. I delegated all that out. I still really needed to make more income because of my large family, and and it was a small 6-bay shop out in the country. So we were doing about $1 million a year, and so we decided to go to the second location, and opportunity came up to do that, and that was a really big learning curve for me. And it's amazing how when you are doing the same thing for years and years, and that you take that to a new location, a whole new set of people, and your eyes get opened on some of the things that you've just always done, that your customers that didn't like it didn't come back, and the ones that did came back and said how great you were. And so then you just kind of thought that everyone must think you're great. And we went to this new location, and the people were like, no, you're not doing it that way. You're doing it this way for us. Yeah. Mainly speed of service, things like that. So we really got some coaching help, and really worked out the kinks there in that second location.
Awesome. And as I know you mentioned large family. Do you mind sharing, what you mean by that?
Yeah. So we have 9 children, my wife and I do. We adopted most of them, and we have some biological as well, and really have a real heart and passion for adoption. And most of our family is grown now and out of the home, but I was doing a lot of covering. Now even with more locations, it doesn't feel, my role doesn't feel as busy as it did then, when I was wrenching and answering the phones and going home to a lot of kids at home, and looking back, it's like how they do it, but you do what you need to do, and it was fun. I didn't dislike it. I enjoyed it, but get to the point where you're able to build your team, and then your team starts to step in, and that's been a huge blessing.
Yeah, that first and foremost, I mean, the fact that you're able to adopt so many children, change their lives, I'm sure for the better, is amazing. So thank you and congratulations on doing that. So I know a lot of people I mean, when they hear 9 children, they're like, James, holy crap, are you crazy? Like, how are you balancing that? Like, running an auto shop alone gives them enough headache, and then now we're adding a whole another bunch of elements into the equation. So how were you able to balance family and business and be able to kind of maintain that relationship on both sides?
So I've got a very supportive wife that stayed at home with our kids. That obviously made that was a huge part of it. Mm-hmm. Being self-employed, there was some flexibility. There was a lot of evenings going back to work after dinner, but also if something came up middle of the day that with the family we had to take care of, I did have that flexibility to be able to jump off of what I was doing. So mm-hmm. in a sense, even with the hours I was working, in a sense, there was a little more flexibility because I own the business but I still had to do the job at some point in the day. Yeah. But I could come back and do it on a Saturday or something like that, and take some time off. So that was really, that was the key, and especially having a supportive wife.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and thankfully I have the same, and kind of allowing me to do this right now, and being able to have this conversation when our kids are who knows doing what in the house currently. But in terms of that's great to hear that life balance was definitely. You mentioned that it was almost easier to be able to do as more locations came to be, and so I know that's probably a hard enough concept to grasp for a lot of people here. So what do you mean that it got easier as kind of more locations came to be? How did that happen?
Yeah, so really kind of from the beginning, being in business, I really never viewed myself as the greatest tech in the world. I worked hard. I did pretty well, but I didn't view myself as this guru. So I was pretty open to, when I hired people, I was pretty open to letting them try things. So when I had way back when, my family took a 3-week vacation and we left the shop in the hands of an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old, and basically didn't check in for 3 weeks and didn't make much money while we were gone, but the place didn't burn down. And looking back, I'm kind of like, wow, why did I do it that way? But I just kind of always have kind of been willing to sacrifice some of the control for some autonomy. And so some of our folks that have really grown with us we've got some great managers that have grown with us, and really I'm pretty hands off with them, I believe. Sometimes too hands off. Sometimes I need to give a little more direction, but for the most part, helping them see the vision of where we're going has really helped all of us row in the same direction. And it's not me running around trying to make everything happen. It's our whole team. And that's been the most fun of the growth, has been seeing the whole team, pull it off. So then as we add another location, it's not just me having to go through my checklist and, do everything and I'm running around like crazy. It's our whole team, chipping in, and that's been great.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, and that leaving an 18 and 20-year-old to run the shop, that is crazy, but also amazing at the same time that you had the courage to do so and invest in that family time and know that, hey, there's worse things that can happen. Let's see how it rolls, and let's enjoy family time. So I'm sure the family was grateful for that. That's kind to say. It was gutsy. Probably more stupid than gutsy, but I remember one when I got back from one of our vacations we took, we were just getting into, this is the early 2000s, got into emailing customers and stuff.
And I told one of my guys to check the email. I hadn't checked the computer, the email, or anything the whole time I was gone. And didn't miss a whole lot, but I'm sure there were some people trying to get a hold of us that wouldn't think of that now, but that was just the way it was. I just didn't feel the need to be jumping in every day looking, and I really couldn't because we didn't have web-based stuff at the time, and so.
Yeah, I mean, not having to micromanage. I mean, there's no other way that I think an individual can learn better than when you give flexibility to like try things and make mistakes and be like, hey, I understand that I want you to try things and mistakes will happen, but it's okay. Like, you're going to grow from it, and I'm going to teach you maybe in the right direction and nudge them in the right path. So I agree a lot of how you decided to manage it. And obviously you're reaping the fruits of that labor in terms of, hey, I 4 locations now that are doing very, very well. So, but in terms of your hiring policy, and then in terms of going from the first location to the second, the third, and the fourth, so on, are you grabbing people from maybe previous locations and bringing them over because now they're kind of trained in the culture, how things should be done, or are you kind of starting anew each and every time?
Really, I have kind of started fresh each time I have moved a couple people in the past, but typically that was more out of desperation than it was either out of we're going to lose them, and so we're going to move them, try to make them happy and move them, or it was no, we're ready to lose our fruit over here, so we got to move this guy, but I'm not sure what's going to happen to that location if we move them. So that was with our second location that we opened. That was kind of the way it was. Just kind of not an ideal situation, but we had to move them. We have found that kind of once you get a team together that's working, it's really not good to mess with that. And so if you've got a guy that's driving a long ways, driving by one of your locations to get to the other one, and it's really ideal for him to move, that can be good. But it hasn't usually worked real well when we've asked people to move. And so and it kind of helps to have just form a new team, and the new team, we've got enough of our existing team now that with our new team they're able to jump in and feel like they're part of a culture, a family. It's something bigger than just me now, and so that really helps.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of starting anew, then like where are your best ways of going to find these people? What does your process look like of vetting them and trying them out? Or is it more, hey, we're starting anew, I need bodies, we get them in, and then kind of rejigger from there? Like what was kind of your philosophy?
Yeah, so with our third location, I was going in understanding that the people that we start with probably isn't going to be the people that are there in 2 years. That's just kind of how it works. Not that I wanted it to be that way. You get a really, really high level advisor or really high level technician. They really don't want to come into a store that doesn't have any cars hardly yet. It's really hard to get a commission-based person into a store like that. So you're getting people that are more comfortable with, some guarantees and things like that. And then when things get real busy, those folks that are real comfortable sometimes don't want to take off like you need them to. So it's been. I'm always understanding that during a new startup or a new takeover, that there's going to be some change. Really work hard to not have that happen, but change sometimes is good for everybody. And we just found as the company, as the location grows, your processes have to change. The speed of service has to change. A lot of things have to change, and some people don't make that transition as well as others. So
yeah, no, definitely. And so I guess when a new location comes to be, what are kind of some of your most important things that you're like, hey, these are the things that we need to focus on in order to even build a foundation to go now in the right direction? Are there some go-to things that you're looking at?
Kelsey, as far as the question here, are you thinking like things concerning the location, the actual physical property location, or things if you have existing staff? What are you asking there?
Yeah, great question. Sorry, I didn't elaborate very well. I wasn't talking about location. I mean, we can talk more about that, but it was more so you have the location. You're getting ready to now open it, rebrand it under your name. we need things to get going now and move it in the right path of like, this is what Oxford Automotive is? Are there like immediate things that you're like, hey, either these are the people at bare minimum I need to make sure this gets done, or these are the certain numbers I need to make sure it gets done, or like what is the, I guess, the philosophy behind how you're looking at a brand new location when like the door is open and we now are Oxford Automotive?
Yes, that's a great question, because we're doing that right now with our fourth
Mhm.
location and thinking through what are the critical aspects. I've done it both ways. My third location, we spent a lot of money and really created a very, very nice, it was a large location and really kind of did everything up front. This fourth location is going to be more of a let's get rolling, and over time we'll make improvements. So it's a really good question, because yes, our behavior of our staff is really the most important thing. How nice your place looks and how well you're marketing is all great, but really the behavior of the staff is the main thing. So that is the thing we'll focus on first, is our operations, making sure we're solid, not trying to do any bells and whistles, just really solid with our operations, making sure our shop management system is working smoothly, our workflow system is working, and really not trying to go over the top with customer service and stuff initially, but really trying to get the basics down. And then as we really get that solid and our behaviors, down well, then work our way towards adding more benefits to the customer over time. But that's really, getting those core systems down is really the bedrock of what we do.
Perfect. No, that's exactly what I was hoping to hear. So thank you for sharing that. So in terms of like the employee hierarchy and how that looks for each store, is it pretty similar across the board? Like, do you have a certain amount of techs per bay and writers per tech, and then a GM over them, or like what does your current hierarchy sort of look like?
Yeah. So one of the things, we don't have similar size stores. Our stores are different sizes. We have the 6 bay, we have a 12 bay, a 10 bay. And so that does create some different personnel looks in each of the stores. We really are very strong. We have a strong conviction that one technician per bay really is the most efficient. We've got really some of the most efficient technicians in the country working for us. And they will swear by that one bay just keeps all their tools there. They just move the cars in and out, and everything, their setup is just perfect. They're not having to move back and forth from the car to their tool setup. So yeah, that's something that we do. But obviously, coming into a store that is bigger and we don't have that many techs yet, that takes a little bit of we just keep telling them, okay, you can have 3 bays right now. Trust me, you will eventually have 1 bay, and this is why it's going to be good for you. And so, that takes a little bit of coaching. So basically, we'll have 3 technicians per advisor, depending on how productive the techs are, and so on. Have a store manager that in the smaller stores, the store manager is also writing service. In the bigger stores, there's just enough other management things to deal with if they're not doing as much writing of service. We have, in our bigger store, we have a parts manager that is doing parts ordering and negotiating things like that, getting delivery set up, just keeping on the parts flow. In our smaller stores, that's more on the advisor. So it's definitely I understand why chain businesses find the exact same location, build the exact same location in the same market, because there's a lot of variables once you get into different markets. We've got median incomes that are double at some stores than other stores. And so that's a whole different sales process. Shouldn't say process, but a whole different challenge on how to do sales. So yes, very much trying to stay lean with just a manager, advisor, technicians, and maybe one support person.
Very nice. Okay, and then so it sounds. I mean, if obviously the goal is a tech per bay, some of your shops have a fair amount of bays. That's a fair amount of techs that are needed. The hairy question is how are you finding enough techs? Where are you looking? I know a lot of people are looking, they can't find it. So what is kind of your strategy in terms of recruiting and bringing in new techs?
Yeah, that's a whole job in and of itself. Technicians are obviously very sought after. There's a lot of unskilled, a lot of guys getting into the industry, hats off to them. A lot of guys getting into the industry that are just getting started, that don't really have the skill set quite that we're looking for. We can only handle so many apprentices, so many, C-level technicians at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always looking for that C-level, that entry-level technician. I prefer to have them have some tire store experience or some automotive experience to say, yes, I've done this, I like it, and not kind of figure it out on my time, kind of figure out that they like cars and they want to wrench for a living. And then if they've got a lot to learn, we have some very good lead techs that just are very, very willing to teach and really teach good processes, good efficiency. But we have to start out with somebody who's just really top-notch character, because we're going to be investing in them. We're going to be investing a lot in them, and we want this to be an upward move for them. And so there's that. There's the entry level. There's a lot of guys wanting to get into the industry, and a lot of entry level guys we found. Obviously, everyone wants the skilled guy that's just plug and play and shows up and works, and you really have to invest in your systems. That's where you have to be able to prove to them that you can feed them cars all day long, and they're not going to have to run for parts, and not going to have to wait. That our sales are strong. So that's just, the better we get, the easier it gets to recruit and keep those A-level techs. And we just, and yes, we do a lot of recruiting, and really, we don't want to recruit somebody away from a good situation. If they're in a good situation, because we know that's ultimately not going to work.
Yep.
If they come to us and they're really happy with where they're at. So, you've got to be honest about it. You've got to have integrity, but ultimately you have to create, the grass has to be greener. We've got to plant greener grass over here. And if we can plant greener grass and have a really great culture and a really great place to work, we feel like the best people will want to come work for us.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like they're kind of funneling that way. And so how would you say like a current maybe technician or staff member would describe the culture there at your stores?
Yeah, so we get a lot of feedback from our teams and from our technicians, because we want to know, how do you really feel about working here? We get a lot of feedback about that their ideas are listened to. We don't always do everything that they want us to do, right?
Yeah,
but there's a point at listening and saying, hey, let's think about that. So a lot of support from us, a lot of training opportunities, mainly just a lot of support in the job. So we which is not necessarily coming from me, because I'm not the best tech in the world. It's coming from our lead techs, and they are very, very good about stopping what they're doing and helping, and that really fostering that support. The other thing we really discourage is pranking, joking, a lot of things that in the trades oftentimes is it's pretty prevalent. We really discourage that. We want guys to feel respected. We want guys to feel safe. So most of our guys don't feel the need to lock their boxes. They don't feel the need to keep track of their hours. Our system does a good job with that. But a lot of guys coming in that have been stolen from, either their time has been stolen or their tools have been stolen. We tell them, hey, keep a list, write down your hours, write down the jobs you did, because I want to make sure we're for what you're doing. But that's something we really try to be transparent, and that really helps our techs feel like they're not going to get things ripped out from under them, which is very common in our industry.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I think I can hear it in the culture that you develop without even really describing it, of how like you have a non-micromanagement style, and that even like you give a lot of ownership to the lead techs, that like, hey, I'm trusting you and your team to be able to then properly teach and lead the say their interns, or they're just starting, and then they're going through the process, and they're a trainee, and it's up to you to really develop them. So then that way it allows the whole shop more efficiency, because now instead of you having to manage 3 bays, now you get to now go down to 2, and then that person is taking up a bay of their own, and it gets down to 1, and it really gets it to where they want to be. The best ways that you have to kind of contact each of the shops and message them and kind of just staying involved. So can you go over what those things are and how you kind of go about leveraging those things?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, the Google Chats is the way that I can see the conversations that are going on between team members, and that really helps. Also, we meet as a manager team. We meet once a month, and then we do a Zoom meeting on the other weeks of the month to talk about issues, talk about what's going on. We also have trainings, advisor trainings and technician trainings. We do those quarterly in-house, and then we offer other training outside of that. But as far as me staying in touch with what's going on, all the employees have my cell phone number. They can Google chat me directly. They can call me, and I feel like we get a pretty good keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on. The other thing I really enjoy doing, and this is probably going to get more challenging as we grow. Mm-hmm. We've got about 32 employees right now. I like to meet with almost all my employees twice a year. So we do a 6-month. Oh, wow. We meet at on their anniversary, and then on the 6th month, 6 months in between. Like to talk about goals, like to talk about, just how they're doing in their job, and just kind of whatever they want to talk about. So it's me, the manager, and them. So it's a three people at breakfast. That's a lot of breakfast. I like breakfast, though. I can eat breakfast all day. So yeah, there we go. So I think it's something they appreciate. I think they really appreciate just being able to talk to the owner, talk to the manager, and it's a lot of patting on the back for things they're doing right, and just try to make it a fun time. Yeah. How long are those meetings typically? We'll meet at 6:30 to 7:30, so they can get into work by 8. Okay. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Makes sense. And so your management team, like the people that you're meeting with, kind of that are keeping the pulse on each of the shops, things like that. How many is that look like? Is it just one per shop, and so that's who you're meeting with, or is it like a couple people? So, yeah, we have. I have the district manager, and then we have the 4 individual managers at the locations. Our new location doesn't have a manager just yet, so we'll be getting a manager for that location, or promoting someone to manager. But yeah, so each location manager, the district manager, and myself. A lot of times in our manager meetings, my part-time secretary will be there, and also our office administrator that does all the financial administrator, she'll be there as well to cover any of the HR and payroll stuff. So it's a pretty good little team. We get together and get us all on the same page, and then we Google chat the rest of the time back and forth. Awesome. That's super good. And keeping it, are there certain KPIs or things that you look at for each shop that's helping hold them accountable, or what does that look like? That has not been my strong suit. I got to be honest with you. I'm more like, is our brand really good, and we take really good care of customers, and our employees loving life? Yeah. And we're not making money. Oh, okay. So that I'm working with a coach on that. He's helping me be a little more focused on profitability, because when we aren't profitable, then other bad things happen that affect customer morale and employee morale. So yes, but the specific KPIs that we're looking at are gross profit per hour, the technician turns. We're looking at hours and typically looking at all our numbers on a weekly basis, and we put all those numbers into a spreadsheet, into a scorecard that we've made up. And the scorecard, we hand that scorecard out to all the employees on Monday. We pay weekly, and so on Monday they get last week's numbers. They can see the numbers in our system we use, but this also gives them a 12-week running average of how they've been doing, basically for the running quarter. How they're doing. So it's just a good 12-week average is a good average. So the things we're looking at for technicians, we're looking at their average repair order. We're looking at their hours they turned. We're looking at their tech quote, average written quote is what we call it. And we are looking at the number of cars that they're touching. So these four things really help us nail down if how well a tech is doing his job. Advisor numbers are very similar. ARO, tech quote as well. So, what are they trying to sell? And then gross profit instead of hours, since they're not technicians, we're judging them on the gross profit that they're able to sell, and then number of cars that they're taking care of as well.
Yeah.
So those numbers really help us get to kind of dial in and see where things are at. And this is not we're not making sandwiches here, so this is a challenging business. And so there's every week, that's really why the managers have to have the authority to really make decisions and such, because it's just every week has another weird situation that comes up, and they have to know how to handle that.
Yep. And so, I mean, that leads me kind of into the next topic of like, okay, so I know everyone has a different management style of like the length of leash that they kind of give, because obviously not everyone is going to be a rock star. If that was the reality of the situation, that would be amazing. But I mean, no matter what, some people just have other things going on, or they're just not able to perform. So as you're obviously, I'm guessing you're leveraging the scorecard to kind of see that tendency and then hopefully be able to correct that tendency. But what sort of leash do you give? Is it like, hey, it's been 4 weeks running that it's just been constantly plummeting? Like, is there a bigger discussion that needs to be had, or like, what is your tactic and strategy around that?
I wish I could say that I had a rock solid strategy there. Definitely, as we've gotten into a regular rhythm of monthly meetings, it has, and our managers, most of our managers are compensated based on net profit of the location. And so as our team has all gotten better, as our financial admin team has gotten better, and as we've been able to come up with accurate numbers quicker, it's been easier to, at those monthly meetings now, to be able to look at a P&L and say, okay, this is what your store did. And look at some of the expenses that got up too high and look, okay, what can we do about that? Honestly, I look at it and say, I don't know what I can do about it. But as I've empowered my managers, they can look at that and say, oh, I know what I can do about that. I can just a real quick example. We had one of our drivers that was driving his own personal car, and we were reimbursing him mileage. Well, we had $1,500 in mileage reimbursements in 1 month at our small store. Not the end of the world, but kind of a red flag. Like, okay, we've also got a whole bunch of loaner cars sitting here that usually there's a shop car that's available. Why don't we just do that and not pay the mileage? So it's just all those little things that they're right there. They're right in the saddle. They can see as they're going along, and they're the ones that really can move the needle on that.
Perfect. So do the managers also have the ability to hire and let go people, or are you heavily involved in that portion still?
Yeah. So where we're leaning there, we use an applicant tracking software. That the benefit of that is that multiple hiring managers can be looking at candidates, so it doesn't have to all go through me. Originally, it was all on my phone, so every single technician I've ever talked to, I put on my phone, I say tech, and then Bill Brown or whatever his name is, and that once you get to 300 or 400 technicians, that kind of you start forgetting who's who.
Yeah.
Somebody calls and you're like, it's still kind of nice when they call you, their name pops up. It's like, oh, I have talked to them before. But this has been a little bit better. So we're advertising out on Indeed, on Facebook, the different hiring platforms. And then when they come into our our ATS or applicant tracking software, then my district manager, myself, and two of our other managers are able to all jump in there, say, hey, I'll grab this one, you grab that one. We can make the first call, and then we can move them through the chain a little quicker than because it goes in waves. Sometimes the industry just gets bad and everyone starts looking for a job, and so all of a sudden we're inundated with all these candidates, and then I'm not quick enough at calling everybody. It takes time, and so we work really hard to obviously, if a candidate is a quality candidate, we want to work hard. We want to work quickly to hire them, and so we bring them into the shop pretty quickly. So we have a process where we really try not to miss any of those candidates coming through.
Yeah, I love that you even have a process behind it. That's something that myself, I need to work on in terms of when we hire and having a real process around it, because it's just at times it just gets, wait, who are you again? And it's like,
Yes.
what role was it? Because I think you have multiple roles going on. It's like, okay, which one was it exactly that they were associated with? So that's great that you have it's a process behind what you're doing.
Indeed, not to name drop, but Indeed they've got a quirky little thing where they allow candidates to continue to apply, even though you've said, no way, and they keep applying, and you're like, that name sounds familiar. And then there's kind of this back doorway of going into Indeed and seeing, oh yeah, they applied 5 times. And I said, no, 5 times. so unless you start memorizing all these names, it gets a little challenging. So yeah, keeping that straight. Once again, like anything, once you get to a certain size, you can keep it all in your head when you're small. There's no need for these systems when you're small, and that was fun too. I loved having it all in my head. I love knowing the 5 candidates that I was reaching out to and talking to them all the time and texting and all that. But as you get bigger, there's just only so much bandwidth we have to keep everything in our head.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, James, you've provided us with so much knowledge today. I truly do appreciate it. So I'm curious, what is next? Are you planning on even more locations eventually, or what does that look like for you?
Well, we had a goal of 5 locations by 2025, and that seems pretty doable. Really, kind of would. I don't want to get to the size where I really don't know the people that are working for me. I really want to, and I don't know how big that looks. Yeah. But I really want, if I can keep a brand where employees really love what they do, and where we're bringing a lot of value to the communities that we're serving, the sky's the limit. But if we get to that point where it's more corporate and we're just making money, but we're not really giving back. Obviously, there's companies that figured out how to do that on a very high level. I don't know that I'll be able to figure that out, but I'm enjoying the team building and what we're doing now, and it's been fun as we grow to have a little bit more money to do fun company events and just things like that. That's been pretty fun. So stuff that never thought possible, able to pay technicians and advisors a really good wage that never thought was possible. Way more money than I was making when I was renting by myself, And so that's just a lot of fun to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, I love that. So if as a parting gift to those hopefully still listening, what would you be kind of your number one advice to them, and regardless of what stage they are, if they're a one-shop owner doing it by themselves, or they are on their journey of being multi-shop owner? Like, what is your number one piece of advice?
Yeah, so I would say, I think the number one thing is, as I've seen, owners that are the most successful are the ones who delegate the most and are more cheerleaders to their team and less micromanaging. And I vacillate between that sometimes. But the better I do at really encouraging my team and bringing a lot of uplift to them, the better they're able to perform, and the better we're able to grow. And so, even when you're small, I think you always have a team, whether it's one person or two people, they're your team. And so really treating them like a team, not treating them like just employees that are there for a paycheck, but treating your employees like they're part of something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And bigger might mean you're just going to hire one more tech, or it might mean you're going to add on one bay, or you're going to go from a 2-bay location to a 3-bay location. I started on a 3-bay location, and so regardless of where you're at, there's always the opportunity to grow, and there's always a opportunity to do that with the team. And I really think it's fun. Customers love being part of your growth story, and your staff loves to be part of your growth story. So being inspiring with growth really seems like it's something that your team really resonates with.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, James. And again, for those listening, don't be afraid to delegate. I think it is hard, especially like if you're a tech, being an owner, like you feel like, oh, well, I'm the tech. I'm the one that knows how to do it. So I need to get my hands on it. You're the owner. You need to be able to delegate. And even if it's something that, yes, you're passionate about that piece, you have to step away in order to be able to properly run and have the people that are trusting you to be able to lead them into the promised land in the sense of where they want to be. So great advice, James. And thank you so much. So those maybe that want to reach out to you and say, hey, James, I want to learn a little bit more. Do you have a piece of advice on this particular problem I have? What is the best way to reach out to you?
Best way to reach out to me probably would be email. I can be reached at james@oxfordauto.net. And there's lots of other ways to reach me, but that's probably the best.
Perfect. All right. Well, James, thank you so much. Thank you to those that are listening. Please, if you're not subscribed, click subscribe, click the like button, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.